Strong.
What up, everyone? K-Ruggs, the Sober Dog here with Jen Cutting. Yeah! What's up, Jen?
Hey, everybody. How are you?
Made the trip down, came to see Jen and Jared and their new puppy.
Yeah.
And we got a lot to talk about. Tons of stuff going on. Unfortunately, some good and bad. But just glad to meet Jen, you know. And I was looking at all the supplies she's got back here. Can you fill us in a little bit, Jen, on what all the stuff's for?
So, absolutely. So, I run a volunteer organization type thing called Supplies for Life. And it's something that I created when I came home from prison. And I have an Amazon wish list where people can donate. And it is for people who are just in need, who are newly home from incarceration, rehabs, institutions, jails, prisons, you know, that live in the shelter, just got their own place, still in active addiction, just anybody who really is in need in my area. And I have diapers, formula, baby wipes, baby wash, tampons, soap, socks, bras, panties, just all this stuff that we need to like feel like, you know, human beings that we tend to take for granted when we're not in active addiction or newly home from incarceration.
That's
because, you know, you get up, you go to the bathroom, there's toilet paper there. You get up, you go to the bathroom, you brush your teeth, there's toothpaste and toothbrush. You know, those are things that are just basic human needs and that are usually, unfortunately, not easily obtainable, excuse me. Or like, even if you're on SNAP food stamps, that doesn't
rules what you can buy.
Yeah, you can't buy toilet paper. You can't buy tampons.
Yeah.
And I'm
Paper
sorry,
towels.
like, as a female, I need toilet paper and tampons.
Yeah.
Like,
diapers, baby formula. You need to buy that stuff.
That stuff is like a necessity. You know,
Yeah.
everybody screams about how people who come home from prison don't re-enter back into society properly. And that's because they get set up to fail. So this is my way of giving back to my community. It keeps me sober, it keeps me sane, and it keeps me connected to my people. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. That is incredible. I was just thinking too, like, my sponsor works at a halfway house, and we'll have extra clothes or shoes, and I'll bring it there, and these guys are dying for just a pair of
nothing.
Exactly.
Come on, do you remember what it was like when you came home? Like, when I came home, I went home to the shelter. I was not allowed to parole to anybody's house. I had to parole to the shelter. And as a female, of course, I came home, and 2 days later, of course, I needed something that I didn't have.
Yep.
Thank God, one of the girls from the rooms, you know, cared enough for me, and she stopped at the shelter door and knocked on the door because people aren't allowed in the shelter. And I came out, and she brought me a bag of tampons, pads, some lotion, a real razor, like a nice bar of soap. Yeah, like I'm still friends with her to this day.
And that probably, I don't know where she got it, but let's say it cost her $15. Mm-hmm. That makes you, like, that can change your day 2 days out of prison.
Are you kidding me, dude?
Change your
like,
week.
I was like, I can't leave this house because how am I supposed to go anywhere?
Yeah.
In my period, you know? And like,
well, I don't know that, but
but this girl like took kindness on me and treated me like a human being. And those, as you very well know, those couple of days are very, very, very special because those are the days that you decide whether you're going to give it a go or you're going to go back and you're just going to go get high.
Oh, that's
like,
fire.
You know what I mean? Like,
so true.
Those are the days like that you're going to decide whether you're just going to say fuck it or you're going to be like, you know what? I'm going to try this shit out. Like I'm really going to put my all into it. So those couple of days are so special because all it takes, because as people in active addiction and in recovery, especially newly in recovery, we're very sensitive.
Yep.
Because we have all these emotions hitting us and we don't know how to deal with them.
Yep.
And all it takes is for one person to be like, junkie, piece of shit. And then that's it. It just turns our whole, you know. So
screw it, I'm out. I am a junkie.
Right, exactly. Yup, you nailed it. But all it takes is for that one person to be like, here you go. And you're like, wow. Like, oh, I am worthy. I am a person.
Changes everything.
Everything. So
That's
I want to
so
be that
true.
person. I want to be that bridge. I want to be that person that shows people that they are human beings, that they are worth so much more than what they give themselves credit for. And that anything, if you just keep putting the next foot in front of the other one, doing the next right thing, anything is possible. I mean, look at me. This June 24th will be 2 years I'm home from prison.
Wow. That is incredible. That's so true. All of it. Just nail on the head. Like 2 seconds and it's, you know, all of a sudden all that shit doesn't go the right way. You get a call. You got to go down to DSS. So your parole officer's mad at you. You can't stay at the shelter for the night. Yeah. And you just like, why do I even bother? I got mountains to go up. Or one or two little things happens the right way and somebody like you helps that out. Not only that, but then they see you like, she's been where I was 2 years ago and she's doing great. Maybe I can.
Right,
and then,
right. Like,
you know,
that all it takes is that little bit of hope, like that little bit of like, oh, maybe I am worth more. Or like, she did it. Like, I remember her mugshot. She was fucked up. You know what I mean? And then they were like, all right, well, shoot, if she could do it, so can I. Yeah. And I'm cool with that. Like, please, yes, you're right. If I can do it, so can you. Like, because my shit was bad. I was 82 pounds when they came and put them cuffs on me.
When you told me that last time, I was like, holy shit.
Remind me, I will show you a mugshot. It is...
Oh, I was just talking to the captain, or the, whatever he is, the top dog at the place where I got arrested, the little suburb. And they have my interrogation video. And I haven't been able to watch it yet. My parents watched it. Woo. But, yeah, I'm just like, you know... Just same thing. I mean, similar to that, you know, I got caught because of how I smelled. That was one of the reasons I got caught. I broke into somebody's house. The guy came home, and I'm literally, you know, on the other side of this mansion, and he could smell me because I didn't shower in 2 weeks. But I'm sitting in this interrogation room. I'm crying. The guy gives me crackers and a Pepsi, first thing I ate in a week, and just similar, you know, we could relate to all that. It's
yeah, like
fucking nuts.
Like sometimes when people come to me and like they'll say something like, I just, like, I feel how they feel at that moment. You know what I mean? Like I can relate to it because, like, I've literally been there. And that, like, brings me on to say, like, everything that's going on right now, like, with my friend Mikey and stuff. I could just picture, you know, I've been to lock, you've been to lock, Jared's been to lock. I could just picture me or my husband or my best friend, you know, in that room, not feeling good and begging to be treated like a human being and begging for the mercy of the officers to take me to sick call or for one of you guys, you know what I mean? And just being denied like less than a dog, and to the point that he lost his life.
It's awful. That whole situation too, like we've been there. What drives me the most nuts is when they deny or say no about something like that to your friend, to any of us. There's no other course of action.
None.
That helpless feeling.
They are God in that situation.
Yes. That bothers me so much. Like, you know, if you're on the street and you go to a doctor and they say you're fine and you know you got a freaking brain tumor, you could go to the next doctor, correct, emergency room. In there, recourse. Yeah, when they say no, that is it. Game over. You're locked in this room, and the only chance you have is if a different guard walks by and you're screaming to them. Then they got to kind of break the quote guard rules of going against their coworker, which they're not going to do. Right. You know, even if one or two has compassion to be like, this kid's really hurting, they don't want to be the one to go in the office and be like, hey, cell 5's really fucked up. Right. And the other guys are like, he's fine. We just checked on him. He's fine. Leave him alone. Don't make a big deal out of this. Right.
So my friend, Michael Schimmerhorn, was a 31-year-old man, who was incarcerated in Washington Correctional Facility. And he just got there 2 weeks ago. Within the first week of him being there, he ended up being jumped by 6 gentlemen and, you know, ended up going into solitary, as always happens whenever there is a fight inside. And during that time, for a week, he begged every officer that walked in front of his cell, please, something doesn't feel right. My brain doesn't feel right. Please, I don't feel right. They kept telling him he was fine, until he handed them a cup of bloody urine. And then, and only then, there was a female officer that was the only person that had any type of compassion. And she escorted him to sick hall. And once they got there, they told him, your jaw's all busted up. He had a broken jaw. And they said, take some Tylenol. The other symptoms that you are feeling is because you are a drug addict and you are withdrawing. Go back to your cell. And he went back to his cell and he died that night. By himself, all alone, like less than a dog. Because when our animals are sick, we take them to the vet and we get them better. This man wasn't even given that courtesy. Thanks. And it just infuriates me. I don't care if you are innocent, guilty, a drug addict, in recovery, in active addiction. I don't care why you're there. You still deserve basic human rights like medical.
That's fine.
You deserve medical care. Every human being in the entire world deserves medical care. In the simple fact that this man was denied that medical care, I've seen it done. I'm sure you have too. I've seen it done a million times. I've seen crazy situations happen where girls are just denied. They fill out sick call after sick call after sick call. And these are girls that are in GP that have access to that, and they never get put on call out. They never get brought down. And all they would have had to do was treat this man like a human. All they would have had to do is give him medical care. Who knows? Maybe it was so severe he still wouldn't be with us, but at least they wouldn't be liable. And now I'm fucking coming for them in every way, shape, or form that I possibly can. I've already helped the family get a lawyer. We have already made a petition. We started a GoFundMe so we can do our own autopsy, a private autopsy, and have a proper burial for him. His life will not be for vain. I will fight for it till the very end. I've seen far too many people in this situation, and this has to stop. Like, this has to stop. We have to start fighting for prison reform. People still have to be treated like human beings. They cannot be treated like this. You go to prison and you are already paying your debt to society. When you are a part of New York State docs, their motto, as I'm sure you know, is care and custody. He was in their custody and they did not take care of him. They failed. The sergeant failed. The officers that day failed. The medical team failed. They all fucking failed. And my friend lost his life.
Every member of the 3 different staffs, the morning, the afternoon, all of them.
Because there's 3 shifts.
Somebody, you have the multiple guards doing the rounds. Each group of guards has a sergeant. They all have a lieutenant they report to. All 3 different shifts, 3 different sets of all those, and nobody said, let's go see how this kid is doing. Let's get him to the medical unit. So, it does not take any extra work to have a nurse go to the cell, even if he's in solitary. They put the extra shackles on because you always got to be shackled out of the cell. Bring him out for a half hour and let them do a full checkup on him.
Right.
These things are so simple.
They wouldn't have been liable.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have been liable. The simple fact that you allowed this man to lay on the floor like an animal and cry in pain. And, I know this man a very long time. He's a scrapper. Like, he's not one of them little ass, like, do you know what I mean?
He's not just going to complain for no reason.
Right. Like, that's not his mentality. Like, he's a scrapper. He knows how to give it. He knows how to take it. I've seen it a million times. Like, he's not that type of dude. He's never been that type of dude. Ever. And he's never, and the kicker is, you want to know why he was on a violation. You want to know why he was on a violation? So he got sentenced to a 2 flat with 1 post, right?
Yeah.
He was on a violation because he came home.
This is the worst part.
This is the worst part because parole, we coming for you too, baby. Huh?
No comment. I'm still on parole.
He's
no
still
comment.
On parole. I am not.
No
and
comment.
This is the worst part, in my opinion. He was staying at a hotel that is known to house people who are in active addiction and people on parole. Great combination to put together, right? People who are struggling to find their way and people who are struggling to keep their way.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Okay. Now, he says his parole officer, he calls him up and he says, listen, they're blowing it down on both sides of me. They're smoking meth. Like, straight up. Like, I cannot be here.
I would have relapsed right away.
Right. He said, I
He's
cannot
stronger
be
than me.
here. I'm not strong enough to be in this situation.
Yeah.
Like, I need to leave. Like,
Day
I'm
one.
gonna relapse. Like, I'm telling you straight up, I'm gonna relapse. Like, I gotta go. I can't do this. And you know what his PO says to him? Well, give me some names and I'll give you whatever address you want.
Oh my God.
Oh, so now
rat.
you're bartering
Yeah.
his sobriety for information?
And then that puts him in danger. And
So
on
it's
top
cool.
of that,
So now he's living in the hotel, right? And Parole and the police come in and bust everybody on both sides of him, and he's just sitting there. That doesn't put him in a compromising position. You literally
and
were
he's still at the
barter-
hotel after
Right.
anyway. Not that it makes a difference.
You're
but-
bartering with this man's sobriety, his life, his everything. You're asking him to compromise who he is as a person.
Yep.
And we have a very strong set of morals when it comes to loyalty and talking. At least, unfortunately, nowadays criminals aren't really like that. But, that's the truth. But for the most part, back in the day, like our age group and our generation, we have a very, very, I still have a hard time when people say things. But we have a very strong moral compass when it comes to snitching and telling on people and giving up information. We don't even call each other by names, so-and-so who lives over there. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because we know how people give it up, and especially now. So he's old school, he's 31. He's been in the game since he's a kid, his whole family. And they know, like, he just knew what it was. So he said, you know what? This is my girlfriend's address. I want to go to my girlfriend's house. This is where I want to go. And he was like,
and I don't have to give you something to get out of a bet.
Right.
If I call my PO tonight and say, I'm in a dangerous situation, it's her job to get me out of there.
Correct.
Like, that was what they said day one to me. Like, if you get in a fight with your girlfriend, your parents, whoever, call and we will get you out of there before it escalates.
See, and every conversation
Which what they're supposed
you and
to
I
do.
have had,
Yeah.
we have had such opposite parole officers. Like yours sounds amazing. Like she sounds great. Like
I've had 9 different ones.
Okay,
so.
well the one since we know each other
Yeah.
sounds great.
I got a new one already since
helpful.
then.
Oh
so.
my God, really?
Yeah.
Okay, well the old one was helpful and encouraging and supportive.
Yeah.
All the things parole is supposed to be. Around here, that ain't the case. That ain't the case. It's let me see how far I can emotionally push you before you do something that I can have some recidivism on.
That would
It's
drive
crazy.
me up a wall.
It's
I mean,
crazy.
I know it happens everywhere, but
It is crazy. And he was in the next county over, and they're actually better than this county. This county is, oh boy, it's a disaster when it comes to parole.
I don't know if I've just gotten lucky or they're better in Rochester.
Maybe
I
because
don't
it's
know.
a bigger area, and first off, for our area, we have one.
Oh, that's
One.
insane.
So I'm pretty sure said parole officer has compassion fatigue, burnt out, all types of things. So
Yeah.
I mean that in itself is just
Yeah, their caseload shouldn't be 40. It
it's
should
probably
be
more.
Yeah, I'm sure. It should be like, here's your 11, 12. Build some type of relationship with them.
Right.
And-
I would call and ask a question, and parole officer so-and-so would be like, oh, I don't know. You got to call me in a few days when I'm in the office. I have no idea. Or then she would tell me, or she would tell Jared or other people, she would give them information thinking it was their information, but it was really someone else's.
Oh my
That's
God.
right, I'm Rob. That wasn't you? No, that wasn't me.
That's such a I don't know what the term is, HIPAA Privacy Act violation,
Well, she wouldn't
everything.
give details. It would be more
Yeah.
like, oh, you didn't ask about this job, or oh wait, that wasn't
Yeah.
you, or you didn't tell me about going somewhere on this date. No, ma'am.
And like you said, that might not even be her fault. She's just over compassion fatigue, like you said.
Right.
That's incredible.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's
But the simple fact that parole denied him any type of assistance or help. I mean, he even said there was he had a roommate in the room he was staying with.
Yeah.
That person was subtly using drugs. That person had stole money and items from him, and he reported this. And they just had no compromise whatsoever. So finally, they were like, report, and he was like, yeah, okay,
Yeah,
I
'cause
know
they
the
were-
deal.
yeah.
And he absconded for like a week. By the time they ended up, he went and turned himself in, and they got him, whatever. They ended up saying a whole slew of new charges, petty ass shit, to the point that the judge, when she sentenced him to his violation, ran it all concurrent. So this way, the violation and the new charge that they ended up hitting him with all went together.
I mean, that's
because it was
decent thing,
yes,
but
he was due to get out August 16th. He didn't even get sentenced. He didn't even like get a real sentence. They like added an extra couple of months onto his violation, like to pacify. I feel like to pacify.
Well, yeah, it's to cover it.
Yeah. So, he left county. He went to Elmira and he went through the classification process.
Yeah.
And then he ended up getting moved to Washington Correctional Facility. It's Washington Correctional Facility in upstate New York. Everyone keeps hearing Washington. They're like, he was in Washington? No, it's just dumb. We do that here. We have Florida, New York, and Washington, New York. It's just weird. So, he ended up tragically losing his life for something that could have absolutely been avoided with proper medical care. That's why, like, I don't care about his rap sheet. I don't care about his past. I don't care about any of that. The simple fact of it, take all that away. That's irrelevant. He was an inmate. He was a human being. He was in prison paying his debt to society. He was supposed to be protected and cared for at all costs, as docs says themselves, because once you become an inmate in New York State, you no longer have the right to do anything for yourself because you're owned by New York State docs. They did the wrong thing. They did not step up. They did not take him to medical. They did not care for him. They failed at their job. The sergeant that was on duty knew there was a fight. Part of his job was to go and speak with him.
Yeah.
Part of his job was
every time there's a fight.
Every time, not just him, everyone.
I've had cuts on my knuckles from hitting the speed bag outside. Little tiny little nothings. And they come and do a full interview in case it was a fight. Any injury reported, supposed to be full documented, all of that. Mm-hmm. Whether they caught you fighting or not. They're supposed to identify all of it,
If you have a cut on your arm, you are supposed to report it. If you don't report it, it's tampering with state property because we are considered state property. You can go to lock if you scratch yourself on... you're cleaning,
doorway,
and you get a scratch and you don't report it, that can actually send you to lock because you damaged state property.
It's unbelievable.
But yet this man was pissing blood and that wasn't a damage enough to report.
When I was at Groveland, there was two different things at Groveland. First of all, when I got caught smuggling, and I took all of it and I ate it real quick. And the sergeant was pissed at me for doing that because they couldn't identify, quote, what drugs I had. So he said, they put the cuffs back on me, bring him back to his cell and bring him back hard. So I got him behind me and the two guards escorting me bashed my head against every fucking doorway to my cell.
And them doors were hard.
Oh, yeah. The guys in those cells are looking out. Oh, there's that, quote, inmate camaraderie. Like, you see another guy getting fucked up by the guards, they can't do anything, but they speak their mind. You could tell the guy on the left of me, wasn't the one doing it. The one on the right was. The one on the left, though, was looking with those eyes like...
He didn't know what the fuck to do.
No, I've seen those, but the different where all he was waiting for me to do is even try to flinch and fight back, and then they just beat you senseless because you fought back.
Yep.
And I didn't. I honestly... As fucked up as it sounds, I didn't really care about the beating. I was more worried that I knew solitary time was getting added on.
Yeah.
I've said this. Solitary, I guess, treats everyone different, but
it doesn't treat anyone good.
It crippled me.
It does not treat anyone
permanent
good.
Damage. But and then they threw me back in the cell, cuffed, bloody nose, everything. Came back about 40 minutes later, undid the cuffs, didn't say a word, and then for the next 3 nights. I didn't get my antidepressants and my meds because they knew if the nurse came to my cell to give me my meds and saw everything, she would have to write a report. She'd have to ask me questions. I'm screaming for my meds for 3 nights in a row. On the 4th night, she came to the cell with the guard. The first couple nights when she'd come by, the guard would block her kind of in front of my window and say, he's going nuts. He refused his meds 3 times in a row. That's what he kept saying, refused his meds. So she just kind of went with the flow. 4th night, she comes. It's still bad, but not as bad. Before I even have a chance to say anything, the guard says, he's been smashing his head against the wall. That's what happened to his nose. I'm at the catch-22 where, do I say what really happened? And like you said, they're God in there. They control my life. If I say he did, well, it wasn't that guy. If I say, you know, the guards did it, these guards can spit my food, throw my food out, can do whatever to me for the next however long. So I just shut up and kept my mouth shut.
You have no choice in that situation.
Yeah.
You know, you have to, it's survival of the fittest. It's as sad as it is to say that, you have to do what you have to do to survive.
Yep.
And you needed to have your whereabouts about you, so you needed your medication. Like, it's just so sad that they just play with people's lives like that. And this happens in male prisons, female prisons, New York State, Florida, California. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just in this random area. Like, it's everywhere.
And the other thing I was going to say about at Groveland when I was there, this is going to come out a little controversial. I don't mean it to be. So, speaking of...
Sorry, my dog just came in.
Speaking of controversial...
I was going to say, speaking of the Soberdogs, Frankie?
She's a nut.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, when I was at Groveland, I busted my knee one day really bad, like twisted all over. So I go to the the medical unit, and there was another guy in there who was stabbed. So there's a guy waiting there who got stabbed, not terribly, and I busted my knee bad to the point where I had to get carried there, and they put the wheelchair and all that. There was 2 inmates who were in the process of getting a sex change from male to female. I have no problem with that. It's not what I'm saying. They got treatment ahead of me and the guy who got stabbed. We're all sitting in the waiting room, and they got to go first for their estrogen or whatever they got. Again, I'm not talking about that. I don't care what people do. Everyone's freedom. But the point being is, like, the medical system doesn't work. You would think me and the knee okay, but I'm still screaming in pain. The guy standing there bleeding, stabbed with a guard on each side of him waiting, who's in physical trouble, could die, is getting, okay, you can wait a half hour while we go, take care of their estrogen shots or whatever.
Right, it wasn't a priority. It wasn't a life or death situation. Who knows if this guy was stabbed in, like, the liver, the kidney, the whatever.
But the whole, like, I'm sitting there watching, and I'm just like, again, I don't care what anyone does with their life, but, like, let's at least get a priority list here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, if you got the shots an hour later, you're going to survive. This guy might die.
Right. He might bleed out, and you're going to be just fine.
Yeah. Well, so before we finish this, Jen, tell us where it's Justice for Mike, and what's his name?
So we are starting a campaign. It's called Justice for Mikey, and we have it all over Facebook and whatnot. I will give you the link so you can put it in your description if you would be so kind.
And the GoFundMe.
We have a GoFundMe for it, and we're trying to raise enough money so he can have a proper burial, because at 31, no one's prepared for that. And we have a petition going. And I can give you the link for that as well. That is really where the prison reform piece comes in. Because if we get enough signatures, then it can go to our higher ups in the state, like government-wise, and, senators and things like that. And then we can really, try and do something. We have a lawyer for them. A pro bono lawyer is going to be taking them on.
Right.
And it's not even, like I was saying earlier to you, it's not about monetary gains from the Department of Corrections. It's about holding people accountable so this never happens again.
Yeah.
It's about making people treat people that are inmates and have mental health issues and addiction problems. It's treating them like human beings as they are. It's taking away of the hierarchy of the guards versus the inmates and making it a livable situation.
Yep. Exactly.
So,
I couldn't have said it any better.
Yeah. His name is Michael Shimmerhorn.
And also just want to show, the sober dog, Frankie and Jared. Yeah.
Frankie.
I got to show the dogs anytime there's dogs.
Oh, that's my crazy puppy.
Well, go check out the GoFundMe, the Facebook thing. I'll put everything in the description. Yeah. Jen's channel, her video, all that. And that's just some of the insanity that goes on, and I'm so glad I got to come down and talk with Jen, talk about that, because stuff like this needs to be talked about.
Absolutely.
So, all All right, everyone. Jen Cutting, check out her stuff. K Ruggs the Sober Dog. Frankie and Jared, we're out. See ya.
Bye.